So, welcome everyone to our not exactly inaugural, but our first AI Playgroup and Makerspace. So, we're going to work today not just on learning to use AI, but also creating some resources that hopefully will be useful to other adult educators. We have a pretty small number of people, so if you want to just quickly turn on your microphone and let us know, or if your microphone's not working, you're welcome to use the chat as well. Um, I can go first. I'm Elizabeth. I'm the digital learning specialist here at Literacy Minnesota, which just means I'm your help desk person. So if you have questions or need help with anything involving educational technology, I serve the whole state. So that's my job is to be here for you. Um, a word I've been thinking about today is freeze, as in funding freeze. Um,
Hmm.
maybe I'm gonna try to not think about that during this meeting. Um, and then I'm here because it's my job, but I am really excited about generative AI. There are some things I'm worried about as well, but I think it's really opens up a lot of very interesting possibilities for teachers and our adult students. Jason's doing
Hmm.
okay. Yeah, we do get most of our funding from the state, but yeah. Who else is here? Paj, I'll pick on you since you got your camera on.
Oh, shucks. I'm Padge. I use he, him pronouns. I am a AmeriCorps State National at the Digital Navigator cohort, net navigation cohort here at Literacy Minnesota. Currently, I am located within the Open Door Midway location. We're not open, but I'm here. Um, word I've been thinking about. Well, right now the word of the week is at, but it's like the at sign. And I was kind of
Oh.
curious if it had a different name, and I thought it had a different name. And Karen, my peer coworker who is a CTEP, thought there was the same thing, but apparently the at sign is just at in English, but it has different names in other languages. It's actually kind of neat that it has like a weird name like an ampersand, but it's not. I'm here because I have some experience using AI prompts, and I was trying to get it to create weird cookies recently. Like one of our team members had found cookies, and I wanted to see if on Google, I wanted to see if AI could do a cookie recipe, and it can do a pretty good job on it. And then I tried to like get it to make bad cookies, um, which I could get it to do. But yeah.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT for meal planning all the time. I think it's great for that. I see Laura's here from
Yeah.
Metro North. Welcome. Noor is here from Rochester, ABE. Great. Wanting to learn more about tools to support staff as you're a support staff person and the tech help for your program. That's awesome.
I could go next if nobody is jumping. My name is Nicholas Houlson. I'm a digital navigator. I'm a co-host, so Elizabeth has to like manage me and the meeting. Uh, as I said before, I'm a digital navigator. I work at Literacy Minnesota. I'm at the Minneapolis campus, and I usually the bulk of my job is helping reset passwords and making sure students are in a position to use our DL platforms and other things like that. I'm kind of a troubleshooter. The word I have today uh, is tactile because one of my coworkers have these tactile stickers that they handed out, and they're really fun to rub. The second word for completely unrelated purposes was grant, but we should move on.
Uh, Hi, Liv. I see Liv is here from Mankato. I actually had lunch with you last week at Language and Literacy. So nice to see you. Liv teaches advanced ESL and looking for some ideas to share with other staff at her location.
And, oh, hello, Courtney.
Hi, my name is Courtney. I work for Literacy Minnesota in the National Service Department, so mostly doing professional development member support. And I I don't know, nap is the word I'm thinking about right now. I'm a little sleepy. And what brings me here today is the National Service Team, as a lot of the Literacy Minnesota folks know, just launched its digital navigation core cohort. It's a new cohort, and I've been supporting AmeriCorps Vista members for the past 7 or 8 years, and now I'm going to help support digital navigators, and I'm coming so that I can be more well versed in digital navigation myself and can be a better support to our members. I've also invited our members to attend this, so perhaps we'll see some of them here in future months.
Fantastic.
All right. And I think, did we already shout out Laura or did we
Laura's
not?
here in the chat.
I'm
Um,
here.
yeah.
Um, I can I can go. I'm here somewhat reluctantly. I almost didn't come. Not because I didn't want to, but because I just finished up another webinar and I've got a
Mm,
reading thing for relicensure from 4:30 to 6:30
mm.
and kind of feeling like maybe I might head out early. I know these are great sessions, but that's why I came. But yeah, I'm probably gonna head out early, just because I know that I won't be able to sit for another 2 hour session if I don't get a little outside time and fresh air. I'm getting all my stuff together for licensure, so that's really been on my mind the last week and a half. So, yeah, I'm trying not to make it be stressful. I've got the credits that I need. It's just a matter of making sure that I can check all the boxes for all the specific, mental health, suicide prevention, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm here for a little bit.
All
Completely
right.
understandable. Don't worry, we're recording the information part of it today, so you can go back later if you want to.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I see Jenny and Carly and Bridget on the participant list, but I know people get called out. You have learners with you. You're busy, so don't worry about it. Feel free to share in the chat when you can, if you want to. Um, and then yes, so we are here for you, your facilitators. Nick and also Jason, we are all part of the digital and distance learning team here at Literacy Minnesota, but we support teachers all over the state. You are welcome to use this ridiculously long help desk email at any time to contact the team, and we will do our best to help you out with whatever questions you have. No dumb questions. Thanks, Carly. Carly's an ESL and citizenship teacher in Minneapolis. Great. So, I was inspired to kind of shift the focus of the AI Playgroup when I got to participate in an EdTech Makerspace project at the end of last year. And I just took this from their handbook. At the core of the EdTech Makerspace process are the foundational beliefs that we all are lifelong learners and we as educators are stronger together. Um, we know that adult education can often be kind of an under-resourced area. Uh, there is free curriculum stuff out there, but not all of it is necessarily what you need to serve adults. There's so much for K-12 and definitely not enough for adult learners. So the more that we can create and share with each other, I think is really, really exciting. And I also think it's really exciting that we get to learn about all this new AI technology and stuff. And like I said before, there are no dumb questions. I have templates and a lot of things that you can just copy and paste today. But it is a play group, so feel free to just play around. And if stuff is not turning out well, which often can be the case with AI, that's perfectly okay. That's part of the process. Um, that's why this is a play group, because you don't have to create anything fancy and polished today. If it doesn't happen, that's not a problem. Um, so before we get to the AI, we're going to just do a little bit of talking about effective strategies for teaching academic vocabulary to adult learners. And then we'll consider how we might use some AI tools to help us create resources for teaching vocabulary more easily and efficiently. I want to save you time. I know as a teacher, creating stuff for my learners just never ended. So many hours of prep and planning. Um, I have a template that I will provide for you, and I will be showing you Magic School. That's kind of my favorite free AI tool, but there are others that you can play around with as well. And hopefully, you'll come away with a resource or an almost finished resource that is based on vocabulary from a ReadWorks text, a source that a lot of us use in teaching. Um, and then you'll be able to share that resource with other adult education teachers or staff. So again, before we dive into the AI stuff, we're gonna step back and really consider our goals. Okay, I think part of the problem with technology is sometimes we as teachers are just handed this thing and told, you need to start using this. And we're not always really sure, like, well, how is this actually going to help me? Why am I doing this? What's the point? Um, so we know our goal today is vocabulary instruction. We're developing resources for adults to support academic language development. Okay. So I just kind of wanted to ask you, what are some things that you already know or believe about effective vocabulary instruction for adult learners? You're welcome to turn on your microphone or use the chat. Thank you, Laura. Laura says students can't realistically learn more than about 5 new words per week. Hmm. Yeah, it's tempting. We've got students who are like, I gotta pass the GED. Like, let's learn all this vocabulary. But I think, yeah, you have to go slow to go fast, is true sometimes. Academic vocabulary needs explicit instruction. Yes. You can't just assume that learners are going to pick it up from context. Sometimes you can do that, but a lot of the time, it's really hard or impossible. I wanted to mention, is everyone familiar with the tiers, the 3 tiers way of thinking about which words you're going to select for teaching? Yeah, there are published lists of vocabulary words. I'll actually be directing you to an online resource where you can search for academic words. Yeah, so tier one, tier two, and tier three. Tier one, um, I like to think of it, those are just kind of your general everyday words, nouns, verbs, things that are really easy to demonstrate, or you can just teach it by showing a picture, and move on. Um, tier three words are more specialized vocabulary. So if I'm in science, words like photosynthesis and friction and force, like those are those have very specific meanings in a science context. And then tier two, yeah, domain specific, right? Those tier three words are going to be specific to whatever content area. Um, if I'm talking about friction in physics, it has a different meaning if I'm reading a book, literature, and it talks about, there's some friction between these characters. That's a different meaning. Um, so yeah, that's another tricky thing about teaching vocabulary is we can teach one meaning, but then in a different context, there's a totally different meaning. Um, Usually we're told to focus on tier two words because they are really useful across content areas. So think of words that you might see both in social studies and science and literature. Connecting words like although, because, however, words that show relationships between ideas, um, because they're much higher frequency and they're also words that are really difficult to learn from the context. So they're really important to explicitly teach. Um, what I always come back to is that you got to give your learners repeated exposure in multiple meaningful contexts to the words. It's not enough to just say word definition. Okay, we're moving on. Sometimes that can be helpful for short-term learning, but again, if you want them to recognize it in different contexts, we need to be providing a lot of practice, a lot of exposure in a variety of contexts. I just stole this quote. This Learner Variability Navigator is a really nice online resource, which I will share these slides with you, and everything is linked. But you can look up a lot of research-based strategies for teaching all sorts of content. And so I just pulled this from the explicit instruction on vocabulary. Instructors and tools should explicitly teach the meaning of new words, especially academic vocabulary, and then provide repeated opportunities to hear and practice using these words in writing and speaking. Okay. Um, Anything I've left out or questions you have? I think, Nick, maybe I'll hand it over to you at this point if you want to go ahead and share what you had brought.
All right. So,
Hi, Tracy. Welcome.
Hello.
then give me one moment to launch slideshow view. All right, so this is what I prepared. My vocabulary word is loading. All right. So I thought I would provide a little example of what Elizabeth had. So when teaching vocabulary, this is an example from a teacher who used Meta AI as kind of a starting point, with the goal of developing a vocabulary worksheet for beginning level ESL students. Their goal was to find something with the long E sound, E, and with the explicit spelling, double E. They wanted a multisyllabic word with the double E spelling and the double E sound. So they started off just with a casual chat to Meta AI in their personal messenger app. And to the best, I've chopped off the rest of their phone so that we don't see what other nonsense they were looking at. So they start off with AY, and then they decide to change topics to EE. And this takes a lot of massaging. to just kind of brute force generate some words. In this panel right here, let me see if I can annotate. All right, can everybody see a big kind of roughly red rectangle?
Yes.
Yeah. In this example, the AI was able to hit on the IE sound, but it didn't really get all the spelling. So there was a lot of trial and error involved. But with explicit instruction, to the AI's credit, with explicit instruction, it began matching the intended outcome. Let's get rid of everything. And here's the finished worksheet. Not every word made it in. A lot of the words that the AI generated, the teacher ultimately decided not to include because they wanted more. If we're using the tier 1 through 3 kind of framework, they wanted more tier 1 words, words that you could at least more easily explain with a picture or something. A good example being concrete, athlete, a more complex example being serene. So that's a short bird's eye view of one example in which a teacher used AI to begin something, to literally both prompt the AI and then prompt themselves, use it as a sounding board to help clarify the learning objective, the double E sound, and eventually play into a completed worksheet. All right, that was our short detour into a riveting real life example with Meta AI.
Thank
I'll
you,
hand it
Nick.
to
And
Bennett.
I really appreciate the beginner level examples. Um, It looks like two is using kind of a modified Freyer model. It's a small picture here, but this graphic organizer, you can do a lot of things with it. But I love it because it gives you always at least four ways to learn the word. I think two had the word and the part of speech. And for some of the words, they had the definition. They also had pictures. You can do this with synonyms, antonyms, examples, non-examples. Um, really adapt it to the level and the needs of your learners. Um, so as we develop our resources today, we're going to be using two sources for texts with vocabulary. Primarily, we're going to focus on ReadWorks, um, but there is potentially a connection to the Marshall Reading Program collection of stories. And I'm going to drop a bunch of links in the chat for you. So mostly working with ReadWorks, but potentially with some of the stories from that Reading Skills for Today or Marshall Reading website. If you want more about the Marshall Reading stories, there are already a lot of resources developed that go with those stories. And we just last week, we at Language and Literacy, we started developing some more. So I would encourage you to kind of check out some of those other links. Um, both of these collections of texts are free, but only the Marshall stories are open. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means, but basically, you have a lot more freedom with the Marshall collection. You don't have to worry about anybody coming after you for copyright infringement because that collection and all of those resources are meant to be shared and saved and copied and adapted however you need to use them for your learners. Um, the Marshall reading stories, one thing I love, love, love this collection, but one thing I always struggled with was that they usually include way too many vocabulary words for each
Hmm.
story, like usually 8 to 10 words per text. Um, but they do have a lot of vocabulary activities that have already been created that you can work with. You can see some more examples from some previous sessions. ReadWorks usually only includes 2 to 4 vocabulary words that are taught with each text, and it usually only has 2 vocabulary activities. So I thought, this would be great since so many of us are using ReadWorks. We're going to develop some more resources to give learners more exposure, more practice with those vocabulary terms. ReadWorks is the third most used DL platform statewide, and that's just distance learning hours. I know a lot of teachers also use ReadWorks texts in synchronous classes as well. It is free, so you can access all of the content just with your teacher account. And it is great for ABE because it has content from grade level kindergarten all the way up through grade level 12. Okay. It is not an open resource, so I just copied a few things from the terms of use that we're going to be aware of today. Um, They say you may include links to the ReadWorks website to share, especially like a curated list of passages. That's what we'll be working on. We'll be choosing passages and developing resources to go with those passages. Um, you can use it for educational, non-commercial purposes. But they don't want you to modify any ReadWorks content, including they don't want you to rewrite their passages or their question sets. Um, I have to be careful because this is being recorded. I am not a lawyer. Um, I am not qualified to give legal advice, but I would choose to interpret this as you shouldn't rewrite their stuff and say that it's still ReadWorks stuff, right? Teachers do this all the time for educational, non-commercial purposes. We rewrite stuff, we make it so it's appropriate for the learners that we're working with. Um, I think that's fine. We're not going to sell it, and we're not going to say that it's original ReadWorks content if it's not. We're going to make it clear what we did and what ReadWorks did. Um, so again, we're going to be very clear about what's created by us and what's created by ReadWorks. We are creating supplemental resources for educational, non-commercial purposes, and we are not going to sell or otherwise make money from anything that we're creating. Um, are most people already familiar with ReadWorks and the vocabulary activities that they have? We'll take a quick look at just 2 passages here together. Yeah, Liv is very familiar. Okay. Um, so I'll just show you quickly. ReadWorks, you have a passage, and they highlight a few vocabulary words in blue. Learners can click on those words and get a definition. They can hear it pronounced. Sometimes they can have it translated into their language. I don't think it has a whole lot of languages, but it has a few. Um, Most of the passages have at least one vocabulary activity. Usually it's this like scale where you rate how well you know the word. Um, and then it might have a second activity. This one is a matching activity where you're supposed to match the synonyms. Um, I don't know. This might be helpful to me if I already had a strong understanding of English. If I were new to learning English, I don't know if I'd be able to do this activity or not without a lot of just trial and error. If I haven't been taught what these words are and I haven't seen them in any sort of context, it's just the words. Um, and this is a kindergarten level passage. Um, Here we have a 7th grade level passage. So a little bit more complex text, but same idea. You've got a few words that are have that blue hyperlink that learners can click on. Same knowledge rating scale and same word matcher. That it just happened. I have seen different vocabulary activities, but personally, I never assigned these to my learners because I thought, number one, they're not very mobile friendly, and most of my learners were trying to do assignments on their phones. But even if I knew everyone had computers, I don't know. I never thought they were all that useful. Um, what do others think? What do you like about these resources that are built into ReadWorks? What do you think is missing? What would you like to see added or instead?
Yeah, we're talking, I'm sorry, I had to answer a question outside of the meeting. We're talking specifically about the word matcher.
Yeah, or the vocabulary rating or the within the text where you can click on the hyperlinked words. Which of these features do you
Yeah.
find helpful or maybe not so helpful?
Definitely the when I've used ReadWorks, a little bit on the less side, I think, compared to the rest of the group here. I really do like the questions that it has and the
Mhm.
pre-teaching materials with the familiarity. Those tend to be a little bit more rocky with beginning level students, especially because you have to say, oh, what are these words down here? Don't know it, know it well, etc. So I've always treated that as more teacher facing or kind of done it where I have a volunteer kind of make a guess if this student knows it or knows something about it.
Mhm. Yeah, that knowledge rating scale, we will actually see that in the template that we're going to be using today. I would agree with you, Liv. Liv says I don't really like it for independent use. Um, I think it's much more useful maybe if you do it in class, kind of as a pre-activity, and then don't just leave it there. Come back to it after you've actually studied the words, and then learners can kind of assess what they've learned. Um, but yeah, I never used it with ReadWorks. Um, Liv also says I'd like to see the ability to use a glossary with more words, and I do not like the word matcher. Fair. So we are going to be looking at some resources that were specifically developed for adult learners. If you're not familiar, I'll drop this link in the chat. You can go to the Atlas website. They have a whole lot of resource libraries. One of them is for reading. And then within the reading library, there are sections for each of the four components of reading, and one of them is vocabulary. And so you can get a whole list of materials that are available for free. We are going to look at some of this collection of lessons that was developed at Appalachian State University. And I found there's actually two versions of these lessons. The original collection that Atlas links to on here has practice texts that are from a variety of sources from all over. I don't know exactly where they got them. And then the updated collection, which I'll drop these links in the chat, has lessons that use some of the stories from the Marshall Reading Collection for additional practice. So I'll just put those links in the chat for you. They're also in the slides, which I will be sending you. Um, so this is just a screenshot from their website. They have a whole collection of 38 vocabulary lessons. Um, they're very similar to, if you're familiar with that Words to Learn By, I think, is the name of the collection. Something that's probably been recommended to you if you've taken STAR or eBree training. Um, and a lot of STAR and eBree activities. This will look very familiar if you've gone through that. But it's awesome because they made all the lessons available in three formats: PDF, Word doc, and Google Doc. And these are Creative Commons licenses. It's an open resource, so you can go in and download, copy, share, adapt however you need to, which is kind of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using their format to create new resources with vocabulary from ReadWorks texts. Um, Hopefully, I'm not confusing you with throwing all these things. Is this making sense? Can you just let me know, okay, in the chat, or let me know if you have a question? Okay, thank you. Um, so when we get to the template, you're going to see again this knowledge rating scale. Um, I think this is lesson 4. I just randomly chose lesson 4. So lesson 4, the 4 words that they're working on are benefit, challenge, delay, dependent, and inspire. And so the first activity is this knowledge rating scale for learners to just self-assess how well they know the word. Then they get into this is a more advanced Freyer model, but still a chart, right, with the word and the definition, and we're getting into also part of speech, synonyms, and antonyms. Um, I think you could use this in a couple different ways. You could just print and provide this to learners. No problem, Liv. Um, or you could give learners a blank version of this chart, and that could be an activity in class, could be taking notes, completing the chart together. Um, Kind of a lower level version of this that I have used with my learners. This looks a little more like Tu's version. I did just the quadrant chart that I learned about in STAR training, where I gave my learners the word, the part of speech, the definition, but then they had to fill out. I wanted them to draw pictures actually, because I think that's a really powerful way to get the word meaning to stick in your brain. A lot of people were not very comfortable drawing pictures at first, but I tried to encourage it as much as possible. And then we would always write several example sentences together. And I also encouraged learners, don't take out your phone and translate the entire text that we're going to read, because then your phone is learning English and you're not probably learning as much English, but do translate really important words so that it's just that translanguaging, it's that support. Again, another way to make it stick in your brain. Um, in that template, then they also provide example sentences. So again, this is something you could provide to learners, or you could kind of give them a blank chart and generate your own examples together. They include a fill in the blank activity, which is very similar if you've used the Marshall reading stories. Those supplements always have 2 close or fill in the blank activities. Um, this template also has sentence completions, which is another thing I learned about from the STAR training. Different from fill in the blank. Fill in the blank, the learners are using the target vocabulary. But with sentence completions, the target vocabulary is already in that sentence stem, and learners have to kind of make a connection to their own experience and knowledge in order to complete the sentence. And I think that's a really powerful technique when you're getting learners to connect what you're doing in class, maybe the more abstract academic thing, to something that they've experienced. They have this activity called Yes, No, Why. So they'll ask you a question, or you can put it also as a statement, and learners have to say yes or no, do you agree or disagree, and then explain why. Okay, this is kind of a simplified version that I use with my English learners. Instead of asking the question, I just made a statement. Learners could just check yes or no, and then write a simple sentence and talk about their opinion with other learners. The last activity in these lessons is called Read and Respond, where they give you an additional reading passage. Um, and they ask you questions about the passage. And this is where they pulled stories from that Marshall reading collection. And so you can choose to do that in your activity, or in my example, I had AI generate an example text for me. If you don't want to create a new text or find a new text, you can also just write questions about the ReadWorks text. I think what's interesting about this is that the words that are in the questions, the target vocabulary, those words actually don't appear in the story. Okay, so this good mental health story, well, maybe some of them appear in the story, like challenge probably appears. But dependent, benefits, inspired, those words are not actually in the text, but the concept is in the text. So you're applying this vocabulary, this concept to another context. So just making lots of connections and getting even more practice thinking about the meaning of the word. All right. So today's project, we're going to use two things. You're going to use a Google Doc template that I will provide for you. The template is totally based on the Appalachian State University's lesson collection. I just copied it and blanked stuff out and made it for us. Okay, so you get a template and you're going to use an AI tool when it is helpful. Sometimes your brain, I would argue most of the time, your brain is going to be a lot better. But the AI tool can save you time. I personally, I find it great for brainstorming, um, just getting a rough draft, and then I can change it and add to it and make it so it actually is appropriate for my learners. So you'll be using a template and an AI tool in order to create vocabulary activities in those same formats that I just showed you that are based on a text from ReadWorks. All right. So I'm going to take you through kind of a tour of the template. I'll show you the example that I made, and we can talk about some ways to use Magic School or other AI tools to help you do this. So it's probably, I'll show you the template first. Um, so you've got directions. I tried to make it very, very clear step by step, everything you need to do. Um, so there's a lot of you're going to need to change this header to whatever text you select from ReadWorks. And then you've got just blank charts, blank spaces to fill in the vocabulary words from the ReadWorks text. If you want to add additional ones, because often there might just be 2 or 3 words that ReadWorks has selected. If you want to throw in up to 5 words, that's great. You can select some other words from the text. And then you've got this chart with the definition, part of speech, synonym, and antonym to fill in. And again, when teachers are using this, they may give it to learners already completed, or they may choose to delete your information and have this be a class activity that we do collaboratively. But at least you're providing something for them to get started, for them to use as examples. I know whenever I'm teaching, like, oh, I speak English, but it was always sometimes I struggled on the spot to like think of good examples for vocabulary terms. So you're doing that thinking, that prep ahead of time for the other teachers. And then again, example sentences, no problem. These templates, you'll see have a Quizlet study set connected to them. So you probably won't have time today, and that's perfectly fine. But if you wanted to go back and create a Quizlet study set and add it here, that would be great. But definitely not required for today. And then we get into the fill in the blank. This is actually formatted as a table. It's just they didn't put the lines in, but you can just tab through it. So you'll create your word bank and then you'll type your closed sentences. Same thing for sentence completions. You'll add your sentence stems. You'll come up with probably just 3 to 5 is enough. You don't have to do a whole lot of discussion questions. And then for the read and respond activity, you're going to come up with 3 to 5 text-dependent questions here. Okay. Um, the questions could just be from that same ReadWorks text. So again, you're not stealing ReadWorks question set, but you're developing some supplemental questions to accompany that text. And questions that include the target vocabulary. So you could write the questions based on the ReadWorks text. You could also choose a story from that Marshall Reading Collection, or you can use AI to create another example text. Okay. If you do choose an open text from Marshall Stories or created by AI or something you just come up with on your own, you can add the text to this document. If you are using the ReadWorks text, don't copy and paste the ReadWorks thing into this document. All right. So here's that was just the blank template. Here's my completed example. So I did choose this history of Juneteenth. I would recommend you choose an easier text because the words I came up with were emancipation, enslaved, slavery, plantation, and honor, which were challenging to think to think of appropriate example sentences. But I did the best I could. I used AI to help me. Filled out the chart, provided some example sentences, fill in the blank activity, sentence completion, um, discussion questions in that yes, no, why section. And then I created, using Magic School AI, I created just a very short text about Sojourner Truth, and then 3 text-dependent questions from that text. So this resource is ready to be shared with other teachers. They can go to this history of Juneteenth passage on ReadWorks. They can work on that with their learners, and then they can do these additional vocabulary activities. Linked on the template is a handout. All right, so you've got a handout that has some ideas and some sample prompts. So somebody mentioned academic word lists. So if you're having trouble deciding, which words should I choose to teach from this ReadWorks text, go ahead and you can copy and paste it into this tool here. And it will highlight high frequency academic words from this new academic word list. So you can see what comes up for you. Plantation and slavery came up for me when I put the Juneteenth text in. So that was why I chose those 2 words to include. Or you can also use this vocabulary list generator, which is a tool right in Magic School. So if you're not familiar with Magic School, you will have to create a free account, but it's quite easy. And then there are all these magic tools. And one of them, sorry, what did I call it? The vocabulary list generator. There are so many tools, and I have favorited so many that it's really pointless that I have favorited all these. But if you just search for vocabulary, um, it'll come right up. You can use this vocabulary list generator. You can also create vocabulary-based texts. There are tools specifically for those things you might want to do. So if I use my vocabulary list generator, you can select the grade level. You can select how many vocabulary words you want it to pull out. I personally, I recommend at least 10 because some of them will be like, I don't need to teach this. So if you just ask it to generate 10, then hopefully you'll get at least 2 or 3 good ideas that you do want to teach. And then you can just copy and paste the text right in here and it will generate a list for you. So you can see third grade vocabulary. So here's what I did. I used this tool and it gave me 10 words and definitions, and I could choose which ones I wanted to use. Another great thing about Magic School is you have this chatbot, Rena. And I like the chatbot because it allows you to have conversations just like ChatGPT or Meta AI or Claude or all of these other AI tools. If you have a free account on Magic School, you still have access to all of these custom tools, but you don't get to go back and forth with it. So, if it generates something for you and you don't like it, then you have to go back and revise your entire prompt, which maybe for you is not an issue, but for me, I don't like that. If it creates something for me, I want to keep that so I still have access to it and then just keep adding to it. So if you're like me and you prefer to just have a long conversation with all of your possibilities, um, the chat bot is what you want to use because that's the one where you can go back and forth, even if you have just the free account. And I I tried this prompt, which you can literally just copy and paste from the handout. Um, so again, I was talking with Jason before we started here about things you need to include in an AI prompt to improve the output that you get. Um, so I just said, I am going to paste a text below. The text is for low intermediate English language learners who are adults. Okay, you want to clearly define the audience. Who is this going to be for? They are in an English class to increase their proficiency in spoken and written English for everyday activities, higher education, and employment in various career fields. Please select 10 words. So again, I'm not actually going to teach 10 words, but I want it to select 10 because I know that some of the things it comes up with, I'm not going to want to bother teaching. Um, no worries, Teresa. Um, So I just told it 10. You can tell it whatever number you want, but please select 10 words from this text that the students are likely to see again in other academic and professional settings. So with Magic School, you could probably just say select 10 tier 2 words, and Magic School, since it is designed for education, probably knows what tier 2 means. If I just told ChatGPT or another kind of general use chatbot tier 2, I do not have confidence that it would really know what that means. Um, so I kind of explained it a little more for the chatbot. And then be very specific about the format that you want it to output because it was great. It's great to use AI tools to get examples, but it's not fun to spend a ton of time copying and pasting and cutting and rearranging everything so it's formatted the way you want it. So just tell it. I want you to create a table with the following headings from left to right. Word from the text, definition as used in the text. Okay, I don't want it to give me other definitions of the words. I want it very clearly related to the text. Part of speech as used in the text. Okay, don't give me concrete as an adjective when I'm in the text. It has concrete as a noun. Synonym, antonym, and three example sentences. So if you'll notice, this is exactly the same format as the table. Okay, so we've got the word, the definition, part of speech, synonym, antonym, um, and then I've got my sentences below. So trying to make it really easy for you to just cut and paste into this template. Sorry, wrong tab. Still the wrong tab. Okay. Um, if the word does not have a logical synonym or antonym, leave that cell of the table blank. Okay, I don't want it to just make up stuff that is not helpful. I also don't want to confuse my students and have extra words, none, not applicable, whatever. No, just leave it blank. And then I find this is kind of my magic catch-all with AI. Before I provide the text, do you have questions or need any additional information to complete this request? So I'm asking the AI, like, are you sure you understand what I want you to do? And then if it doesn't understand, I can provide clarification before I submit all my stuff, and then I just get garbage out. So you can copy and paste and adapt the prompt as needed. And then Raina was very nice. Raina, the Education Magic School chatbot, said, "No, I understand everything. Just give me the text." So then I gave her the text. Um, Maybe a follow-up prompt might be, please continue the table, adding rows for other words that it did not pick out, but maybe you used that new academic word list and you know that you want to teach those words. So continue the table, but add these words because I know I want to teach these. I didn't like some of the example sentences for slavery, enslaved. They weren't the greatest examples. So like give me 10 additional sentences. Give me more examples for whatever words you want more examples for. I am sorry, I am talking way too much. Um, would it be more helpful to go through the rest of these sample prompts, or are you feeling ready to just kind of dive in and take a stab at this? Thoughts?
No.
I don't know about anyone else, but I might appreciate going over maybe one more sample prompt. I'm still
Sure
getting
thing.
familiar with talking to
Yeah, of
AI.
course. Um, so for the next, so that kind of took care of all those examples that you're going to provide for the teacher and possibly for the learners. Um, and then for the exercises, the ones where students have to fill in the blank or complete the sentences or answer the discussion questions, that's kind of what this second prompt is for. Um, I am going to paste once I've got my vocabulary words selected and I've got some good examples. Um, then I tell the chatbot, I am going to paste 5 vocabulary words below. For each word, generate 6 sentences. Again, this is excessive, but I know some of the stuff is going to be crap I don't want to use with learners. So give me 6, and then maybe I can pick out a few good ones. There will be a total of 30 sentences, being very explicit and clear about what I want. The sentences should be relevant and appropriate for low intermediate adult English language learners. And then again with the format. Format each vocabulary word in bold font. Before I provide the 5 words, do you have questions or need any additional information to complete this request? So I'll be interested. I have only tried this with Magic School, and Magic School is just, very nice teacher's assistant. No, I don't have any questions. That's perfectly clear. Give me your words. Um, but I'd be interested if you get feedback from Meta AI or ChatGPT or some other tool. So when you're ready, you just get, here are the vocabulary words. Um, if it messes up, here are some things you can tell it, like repeat the task, use concrete as a noun, not as an adjective or whatever it messed up. Or repeat this task, make the sentences easier, shorter, or more complex, kind of level it up and down if as needed. And you can even give it an approximate grade level. Um, I don't think that AI tools generally understand Lexile very well. Um, I have tried to get the Lexile into a specific range and have not been very successful testing it against other Lexile assessment tools. So I would just kind of stick with grade level or don't even give it a number, just say easier, shorter. Again, tell it what you want in really simple, concrete terms. And then if you don't like the sentences, you want questions instead, you can tell it, repeat the task, but this time write questions for discussion instead of statements. Um, so again, this is kind of just your general chatbot prompt. There is this vocabulary-based texts tool in Magic School that will also generate ideas for you. That tends to generate more paragraphs, more like an actual coherent text. So that might be better for the read and respond activity, actually, that text generator. But you could also use a more general chatbot. So if I want it to generate a whole new text, like I did with the Sojourner Truth text, here's the prompt I put in. Please generate a text for low intermediate adult English language learners. The text should be at about a second grade level and contain 10 to 15 sentences. The text should be about your topic and the idea or the concept of emancipation or whatever you want to focus on. I would also like you to generate 10, and again, 10, way more than I need, but I know some of it's going to be garbage. So 10 text-dependent questions for this text. The questions should include the vocabulary words. You just copy and paste them in. Include an answer key with possible answers based on the text. You don't have to include an answer key in your resource, but it's nice. Also just kind of nice to verify, like, what does AI think the answer is to this question? Before you generate the text and questions, do you have questions or need any additional information to complete this request? So at this point, I'm going to drop the links in the chat for you. There's the link to the template. There's a link to Magic School. And then there are some other AI tools that you can try if you want to. And Jason, I think we can pause the recording at this point. Sorry. So we're coming back together as a whole group. Thank you, Jason, for restarting the recording. Um, I want to be sure everyone is able to share your activity when you have it completed. So the examples are here, but I should really just model this for you. Okay. Um, so I've got my my example here for the history of Juneteenth. I'm going to go up to my share button. I need to make sure that down here it says anyone with the link. Okay, really important to make sure it says anyone with the link can view it. Then use this other button to copy the link. And you're going to paste your link into your document right there. But you want to make it a template preview link so that when other teachers access it, they don't change it and mess up all your stuff, okay? The way to do this, it's pretty slick. You delete the word edit and everything after it, and then you're going to replace it with template slash preview. And that's the link you want to copy and paste into the form. Okay, I made this before I had actually finished the template, but on the actual template, we have a Google form. So you will go to the link on this Google form. You'll fill out your information, especially the title of the ReadWorks text and the URL, and that we know the grade level, it's not an exact science, but whatever grade level ReadWorks says it is, and whatever Lexile level ReadWorks says it is, you can see that off to the side here. So this is 800 Lexile and grade 3. List the 2 to 5 vocabulary terms, copy and paste your link with template preview. Couple questions. Did you change the share settings so anyone with the link can view? Yes, please. Did you create? And also good idea to test out, and then paste above the template preview link. Do you give permission for other teachers to use, save, copy, and adapt your resource? Yes. And then this is optional. If you would like to try to create some additional resources, um, we can give you some CEUs for doing that. So you just say yes, or no, or maybe. And if you say yes or maybe, we will follow up with you. If you are particularly passionate about certain ReadWorks texts and you've created other materials that you would like to share, you can share them here, and we can make those available to others through here. There will be a spreadsheet eventually with all these responses, and I will make that public. I didn't quite get everything in place before we started our meeting at 3. So we restarted the recording. Thank you. Um, it is 4:30, so we will stop. If you have to go, that's fine. If you want to stay on a few minutes longer, if you have any questions or things you want to share, I'm available for a few more minutes.